again, he did meet with that one rabbi, so maybe they're staying linked up, and the rabbis having him over for Shabbat dinner every 2 weeks, and Kanye's bankrolling the whole thing. I don't know if they do Shabbat dinner every 2 weeks. That might have. I don't want to sound anti-Semitic doing the this episode. So
Yeah, you can like or you can hate. Yeah, it's Creme, fucking roulette. Yeah, you can like or you
are
can
people
wait.
still
Yeah,
listening to
it's Creme,
Sampha?
fucking
I don't know if
roulette.
anyone's
I'm
still
at your
listening to
bank, you
Sampha.
should
I like
pay. Yeah, it's
Sampha's
Creme,
first
fucking
album.
roulette.
The
Yeah,
second
across your
one,
bank.
this
Yeah,
isn't
what's
how
your
I'm going
way?
to start. I
Yeah,
was
that's the
listening to
same.
Kanye
Still
before
relate.
this.
She give me
This is going to
brain, that's
be,
my green.
as you can
Call
probably
me the
tell by the
pain.
title,
Some
it's going to
keeps
be
the
an
gold
episode about
chain.
the
You know,
Kanye West
ring.
apology.
Damn.
You're going to get, I mean, it's going to be, we'll see how much I do about it. That's where we're jumping off. We'll see how much of it is, see, where we're going to land is I'm going to both be as critical and cynical about Kanye as one can be. But as you'll find out, shoot me, shoot everybody else who still is. I'm still listening to the dude's music. And I don't say that bashfully. Hopefully, you'll be able to tell by like my tone and candor for the more critical portion of this episode that my listening is not uncritical. Damn, I wasn't even trying to start for real. I just pressed start on everything, and I was just yapping to myself, and I was like, man, let's just do the episode. And now we're here in the episode. What's up? It's the Creme World Podcast, episode 15-ish. I'm your host, Creme Brulee at Creme Brulee 2D. I'm throwing my arm around a lot right now. I don't think of myself as someone who talks with their hands a lot, but I like do stand-up comedy, and I like watch myself, and there's an amount of talking with my hands. It's crazy because you're just never thinking about the fact that you're talking with your hands. At least me, if I'm talking with my hands and being demonstrative, it's so unconscious. And it's not scary, but it's like how you can drive somewhere, and when you get there, you're like, damn, I wasn't even, not a moment of my brain was thinking about driving. That's how it's just crazy that your body gets to operate without your consent sometimes. Cancel the body. I'm your host, Creme Brulee 2D. Follow me at Creme Brulee 2D on all platforms. Subscribe to the podcast. Like the podcast. Please leave a rating. Someone else left a rating. We're at 2 ratings on Spotify now. That's big podcast shit. I'm on your coattails, Joe Rogan. I'm on your coattails, Pod Save America. I'm on your coattails, This American Life. I'm on your coattails, Amy Poehler. I'm on your coattails, Smartless. I'm on your coattails, the Bill Simmons. I was gonna name as many podcasts as I could. That was gonna be the bit. But you didn't want to hear that. So this is going to be, I'm going to talk about Kanye. I'm going to talk a little bit about social media, activism, and why it's the corniest shit. And then we're going to I think that's it. I think maybe I had one more thing. We'll see. First, I was on the train, this week. I get off work at like 3 o'clock. I'm in like the heart of downtown Seattle. So like the train ride home for me, it's, big major city, 4 o'clock pretty much. Everyone's getting off of work. The train's as packed as it can be, right? And I'm standing on the train. I've decided that the train for me is my noise detox place because I listen to a lot of shit throughout the day. I have a job where I can listen to music or podcasts. So I listen to music or podcasts for most of the day. And then when I'm home, you ever notice you're listening to stuff a lot? So I made a conscious effort. It was actually after the episode where I made fun of people for wearing Bluetooth headphones, which is the least listened to episode. So I know you haven't listened to that. Go back. That's the real shit. Just an hour of me complaining. Can't believe y'all didn't all want to listen. Anyway, I'm on the train. I'm doing the noise detox, as I said. There's a group of 4 teenagers next to me, right? Not standing immediately next to me. There's some various bars and seating apparatuses in betwixt me and the teens. But these teens yapping. Like I said, it's 4 o'clock. I think it might have even been Friday. So train is as packed as the train is. 4 teenagers around, tons of people. Full volume conversation. And it's It's 3 black teenagers and 1 white teenager. So you already know, if you're familiar with the dynamics, if you're familiar with black and white dynamics, that if you're if you're just one white people, if you're a singular white person with a bunch of niggas, that means traditionally that means you crazy. There's someone who has I don't know who has the bit, but there's like a famous comedy bit where someone's like, that the white boy with all the black people, that's the craziest one of them for sure. I believe that. I also believe in this case, and I've seen it in real life, it's also oftentimes the swag white boy, the white boy, that would hang out with a bunch of black kids. This was the swag white boy in the mix, and these other kids are like, they're just, again, full volume on the train talking about their body counts. I think, yeah, their body counts. And the white kid's like, I only have like 5 or 6, but that's like good for 18. You know what I mean? and these 2 other black boys across from him started talking about. One of them started talking about how he smashed this girl in the all gender bathroom at their school. And the little white kid's like, what? Ew. And his friend's like, yeah. All the other ones are like, yeah, hell yeah. Like, they're recognizing, like, that's tight. We've all smashed in various places at our school. And the white boy's so bewildered. And then I think they could tell they were freaking out the white boy. So they're like, this one black kid's like, yeah, bro, I smashed her in the all gender restroom. No rubber too. and the little white boy goes, what? No rubber? And then the black kid goes, yeah, dog, I'm a road runner. and at this, I start cracking up on the train. I don't know if anyone else is hearing this. They have to be. I mean, I think a lot of people, if you were to listen to the episode, as I pointed out, a lot of people on the train have on Bluetooth headphones or they're not listening, they're tapped out. So these kids are actually, it's not a bad idea. No one's really listening. Everyone's in their own little Bluetooth headphoned bubble. And so I start cracking up. One of them sees me, and then just like hold his arm up and points and goes, that guy's laughing. And they're all like, oh, why are you listening? Oh, man. And I just looked at him and I was like, hey, man, you'll learn. And then they started laughing and they were like, hey, bro, did you learn? And then at that point, I was like, I'm on the train. I'm not about to be discussing the efficacy and usefulness of condoms with some youth on the train. But then they started talking, and one of them, they tried to trick the white kid into thinking that if a girl took birth control, it lasted for a month. And he was like, really? And at this point, I did have to step in again. I was like, hey, man, your friends are pulling the wool. The kids are all right. That's the lead into this podcast. The kids are all right. Nothing more mortifying than when teenagers notice you listening to them. Luckily, they could tell I was one of them. I'm a youth, man. I'm cool. Weird start to the episode. As you may or may not have heard, Kanye West, or Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal apologizing mainly for his anti-Semitic remarks and general vibe over the past year. The timeline's gray because, as we'll discuss, when did it really start? But yeah, apologizing for his anti-Semitic remarks, which, I think everyone who was online, you saw the types of things he was saying, the Nazi merch, the Hail Hitler song lyrics, the black Klan robe. he was wearing last year. And so I don't know. Before, I think I'm going. I went back and forth. I'm like, am I going to read the apology? Because I don't know if people have heard it, and if reading an apology is a weird thing to do on a show. Excuse me. But I think I'm probably going to because it's not that long, and I don't know how many people have seen it. And I'm going to talk about it, and I don't. Whatever. I'm not going to waste even more time. But before that, I just want to talk about like my relationship with Kanye West. I'm like, I was thinking about it before. I think like I personally am someone who credits Kanye, at least for me, with like getting me, like helping me discover who I am and helping me get into being an art, like making me want to be an artist. I think Kanye was like the first artist I saw who I was like captivated by everything they did and all of their work and everything they said, and I felt inspired by, and I felt connected to, and I felt like I saw a piece of myself in them. The first album I bought was Graduation. The first 3 music CDs I ever purchased for myself were, in some order, the Jonas Brothers, A Little Bit Longer, banger. Fall Out Boys from Under the Cork Tree, banger. And Kanye West Graduation, banger. That says a lot about who I am musically in totality, but we're just talking about the Kanye West of it all today. And I'm like, did I need to tell that story up top? Anyway. Graduation was the first CD I bought, man. It got me into hip hop. It got me into, I don't know. I just had never heard anything like it before. I grew up listening to and around a lot of hip hop. I'm from Atlanta. Obviously living in Atlanta and not hearing or being a part of the hip hop community, or like, yeah, there was no living in Atlanta and not knowing rap, you know what I mean? So I grew up, like my stepdad, maybe I've talked about it before, maybe not, who was the first person to like put me on to music, or at least listen to hip rap around me and drive me around and like play me stuff, was my stepdad Steve, and we listened to a lot of early T.I. and Young Jeezy and fucking, who else was Steve into? 8 Ball and MJG, UGK, some really tight shit, honestly. Put me on to some like, I'm happy that was like a lot of the first music I got to listen to. Y'all know how much I love Atlanta, and all those artists still to this day mean a lot to me, though they're all complicated. T.I. doing stand-up now. T.I.'s doing stand-up. I was kind of mad because, like, Kid Cudi also is doing stand-up now. I'm not saying I don't want musicians doing stand-up. I'm, like, the most, like, everyone do whatever they want, art is art, or whatever. And then I see, like, rappers doing stand-up. I'm like, I don't like that. No, that's like there's a very small part of me that doesn't like it, but the other part of me is like, that's the coolest thing. So I still haven't watched the T.I. special. I don't know where I can actually, but I will do that anyway. All that's to say, that was the type of hip hop I grew up on initially, or like that I was exposed to first. And while I love it and, you know, connected to it from like this is where I'm from, this is like, you know, my city, and like it felt endeared to me. Like it felt appropriate, and I felt like connected to it because it was what was happening around me. And that's how I still feel about a lot of Atlanta hip hop, even though I'm not there anymore. But Kanye was the first artist where I was like, oh, that's like I'm not selling dope. Respectfully. With all due respect, I've never moved a brick. It is with a heavy heart that I admit that I have never sold dog food. But I did relate to the story. I mean, it's also funny because I guess Kanye was relatable, but by the time I like graduation, it's not like an accessible Like he was famous enough that he wasn't really rapping about like accessible stuff anymore. You know what I mean? Like late registration, college dropout Kanye was like, hey, real niggas struggling, spaceship, we gotta diamonds from Sierra Leone, like woke kind of stuff. And by graduation, it was like drunken hot girls and like flashing lights. Like those, those are not accessible song titles in terms of like, yeah, I be around drunken hot girls. Me 13, not even 13, like 10-year-old. Anyway, Kanye the figure, definitely someone who I identified a lot with just from and I'm sure a lot of people who I don't know how many people you've heard talk about how much they like Kanye, but a lot of black people who are in my like cohort feel a similar way where it's like if you weren't, it's like the 50 Cent versus Kanye quote unquote beef or graduation. If you don't know, when Graduation was coming out and 50 Cent's album Curtis was coming out, they kind of had a contest or like a bet between them to see who would sell more albums. No loser was going to retire, and it seemed like 50 Cent was going to, but Kanye West ultimately did. And what that really symbolized was a shift in hip hop from this gangster, bravado, hustler, aesthetic and sonic, world universe to one where it was, for a nigga like me, a more relatable version of the black experience, which was like, I like clothes, I like girls, I like, basketball, stuff like that. And I'm just a dude who's trying to make it and enjoy the beautiful things in life and, listen to some old records and, that kind of stuff. So that's why I related with Kanye. And still, as I kind of alluded to before, I've never, throughout all of the various Kanye, like I was listening to what was the album? I was listening to The Life of Pablo before this, which is about a decade old because it came out when I was in college, and he's talking about being off his meds, and I listened to the album Yay, which at least 5 years old, came out whenever, at least 5 years ago. And, he has a bar where he's talking about when he said slavery is a choice. So the cycle of Kanye being on and off his meds and struggling with different diagnoses and making public apologies and, kind of being a habitual line stepper in the most honestly the most grotesque way you could habitually line step, where the line is like, anti-Semitism and like anti-blackness and like slavery denial, Holocaust and slavery denial. So yeah, I'm not proud to say this, but just to be honest, there's never like been during like the particularly heinous moments, like I'm sure there might have been a month or two where I was like, yeah, this has a little less of a feel, but it never came to a point where like if he came on in a playlist, it was like, oh no, got to get it off. Excuse me. Or where, for like, I just swore it off for like a year or just said I'm done with it. Maybe there will be that point. I'm not ruling out that point comes, but we haven't got to that point. And so I think that's enough lead up. So this is Kanye's apology letter for his past transgressions. If you've already read it, skip ahead 2 minutes. Reading now. To those I've hurt, 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw and caused injury to the right frontal lobe of my brain. At the same time, the focus was on the visible damage, the fracture, the swelling, and the immediate physical trauma. The deeper injury, the one inside my skull, went unnoticed. Comprehensive scans were not done, neurological exams were limited, and the possibility of a frontal lobe injury was never raised. It wasn't properly diagnosed until 2023. That medical oversight caused serious damage to my mental health and led to my bipolar type 1 diagnosis. Bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system, denial. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick. You think everyone else is overreacting. You feel like you're seeing the world more clearly than ever, when in reality, you're losing your grip entirely. Once people label you as crazy, you feel as you cannot contribute anything meaningful to the world. It's easy for people to joke and laugh it off, when in fact this is a very serious, debilitating disease you can die from. According to the World Health Organization and Cambridge University, people with bipolar disorder have a life expectancy that is shortened by 10 to 15 years on average and is 2 to 3 times higher, and a 2x to 3x higher all-cause mortality rate than the general population. This is on par with severe heart disease, type 1 diabetes, HIV, and cancer, all lethal and fatal if left untreated. The scariest thing about this disorder is how pervasive it is when it tells you you don't need help. It makes you blind, but convinced you have insight. You feel powerful, certain, unstoppable. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I loved the most, I treated the worst. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and the exhaustion of trying to have someone who was at times unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. In that fractured state, I graduated towards the most destructive symbol I could find, the swastika, and even sold t-shirts bearing it. One of the most difficult aspects of having bipolar type 1 are the disconnected moments, many of which I still cannot recall, that led to poor judgment and reckless behavior that oftentimes feels like an out-of-body experience. I regret and am deeply mortified by my actions in that state and am committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. To the Black community, which held me down through all the highs and lows in the darkest of times. The Black community is unquestionably the foundation of who I am. I am so sorry to have let you down. I love us. In early 2025, I fell into a 4-month-long manic episode of psychotic, paranoid, and impulsive behavior that destroyed my life. As the situation became increasingly unsustainable, there were times I didn't want to be here anymore. Having bipolar disorder is notable state of constant mental illness. When you go into a manic episode, you are ill at that point. When you are not in an episode, you are completely normal. And that's when the wreckage from the illness hits the hardest. Hitting rock bottom a few months ago, my wife encouraged me to finally get help. I found comfort in Reddit forums of all places. Different people speak of being in manic or depressive episodes of a similar nature. I read their stories and realize that I was not alone. It's not just me who ruins their entire life once a year despite taking meds every day and being told by the so-called best doctors in the world that I am not bipolar, but merely experiencing symptoms of autism. My words as a leader in my community have global impact and influence. In my mania, I lost complete sight of that. As I find my new baseline and new center through an effective regime of medication, therapy, exercise, and clean living, I have newfound, much-needed clarity. I am pouring my energy into positive, meaningful art, music, clothing, design, and other new ideas to help the world. I'm not asking for sympathy or a free pass, though I aspire to earn your forgiveness. I write today simply asking for your patience and understanding as I find my way home. With love, yay. Red Bull pause, excuse me. Today we're on the white peach. Give it like a 6. So that's the apology. I have a list of cynical takes and a list of open-hearted, good faith, not cynical takes. We're going to start with the cynical takes on the apology. For me, the most obvious one, before I even read the apology, as soon as I saw the apology hit, the first thought I had was, isn't he about to drop an album? Lo and behold, he was about to drop an album. He's about to drop an album. It was supposed to come out initially this week, but it's been pushed back, but it's still coming within a month or so. So it's really, it does, I think objectively make it seem less sincere that you're apologizing right before you try and sell the world something. I don't, obviously, like, a less cynical way to look at this would be like, hey, before my name comes back in the public conscious, I don't know, I tried to, it's just, it's just hard to take it as anything but kind of, uh, as like a gesture, not, as trying to, yeah, trying to just go back to normal. I mean, it's hard, right? Because you're gonna apologize if you feel bad, and when is the perfect to apologize? There's no perfect time to apologize except for like the day when you feel, maybe not the day. I don't. I'm not gonna have a full good take on it, but I will just say, it is convenient that you apologize right before you're trying to sell an album. Okay. Number two, cynical take is the apology is like there's very little centering of the victims of what he did. I'm not saying your apology shouldn't, and Lord knows, apology critiquing. However, in my experience, understanding, I think if you're apologizing for something, you should try to center the experience of whoever has been victimized by your actions. And I don't feel like starting off with, a full page about how you are the victim of a car accident and bad doctors. That doesn't seem, it seems like, perhaps you haven't fully thought about the fact that your actions, it makes it seem more like you're more worried about how you look than how other people feel, right? And that goes back to the timing of it all. It seems very much like a thing where you are trying to check boxes because you understand that you've done wrong, and rather than be like, hey, let me do right, you're trying to say, hey, let me save face. A public apology is always going to be that in some way. It's hard because it's like he, I guess, did apologize to that one rabbi, but you can't actually like go face to face and earnestly apologize to every Jewish person. But maybe you should try, right? He has the resources. A lot of them are still going to be coming to the concerts. I don't know. Anyways, other cynical take. I feel like he committed to like taking care of his health, but there was not really a commitment to being like, hey, I'm going to work with this Jewish organization to educate myself and see where I can lend resources and see if I could do anything to help use my platform and my skills to help further pro-Semitism in whatever ways I can, right? It doesn't, again, he did meet with that one rabbi, so maybe they're staying linked up, in the rabbis having him over for Shabbat dinner every 2 weeks, and Kanye's bankrolling the whole thing. I don't know if they do Shabbat dinner every 2 weeks. That might have. I don't want to sound anti-Semitic doing this episode, so just know I was just trying to do an innocent joke. Okay. Cynical take number 4. As I kind of alluded to, the Nazi stuff isn't new. Before I did this, I was like, let me research and see how many public apologies he's done. There's anywhere between like 3 and like 7, depending on if you count just like, if you count tweets, it's between like 3 and 7. But there's been at least 3 that are like, they weren't all taking out Wall Street Journal ads, but they were like big enough. For the Taylor Swift incident, for example, for the black people, slavery was a choice, for example. And there was another anti-Semitic thing. I'll have to look into it. Anyways, there's also the story that came out from like Adidas, and we'll get to more Adidas lawsuits. The Adidas lawsuits But there's one where they were like talking about how he was talking about liking Hitler in like the early 2010s. So there seems to be a pattern of behavior here that's not being addressed. And while of course the the biggest strike was doing, selling the swastika T-shirts and making Hail Hitler songs, obviously that's the peak of your anti-Semitism. There was a lot of other stuff along the way where it's like, hey man, what about you know what I mean? What about these other times you said pro-Hitler things that weren't in the past year? And also when there is a pattern of behavior, it makes it like really. Is this just a thing? Why does this pop up every time we're having an episode? I don't know. We'll get to the pattern of behavior of it all in the not cynical, because I'm gonna kind of fly through cynicals because I'm like, hey, these are whatever. These are not whatever because I just saw the next one and I'm not trying to say this is not going well. Okay, the last cynical take on the whole apology is, if you were like paying attention over the past year, 2 to 3 years, like a lot of it while the Nazi stuff was going on, there's been, I won't say a lot, but like more than a handful of women who have come forward and accused Kanye of assault in various forms or harassment or anyway, just do your Googles real quick and like woman sues Kanye for assault. There's a lot of them. And a lot of really weird stuff he was doing at Adidas, and a lot of really weird stories from people who worked at a school or not. There's just a lot of really weird stories of abuse, both like, like corporate boss to employee abuse, and also just like blatant sexual misconduct. That's just nowhere in here. That's just, the most cynical view I could have of it is he was doing all the Hail Hitler stuff, so people were paying attention to that and not the deluge of cases he caught. And listen, I haven't done my full research on this. If I did, I would have more information. So I'm not sure what the results of all those cases were, if they were settled, still ongoing, yada yada. However, it feels really, I don't know, a like patriarchy cooking, or like the anti-Me Too backlash in America, which I don't know if people fully realize we're into, where like it's kind of the online climate for women to like come out and like accuse men of assault is kind of like worse than it's ever been, in a way, where like there was a moment, obviously, when Me Too happened where it was like, oh, cool, not cool, Jesus Christ. But, okay, so a lot of women are coming out and talking about negative experiences, and people are paying attention and supporting generally. And in a similar way that the Trump era has kind of been a backlash to like the Obama era, the online right vibes right now are kind of similarly a backlash to the Me Too movement, where people talking about being assaulted or various instances of sexual misconduct are kind of getting like doxxed and trolled and harassed, and immediately from what I can tell and have seen, it's just not the climate for that anymore, which is scary. Just look at the Meg Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez situation, where that wasn't sexual in nature, but a pretty cut and dry case of a woman being assaulted by a man. And if you go online, the amount of people who are like, I guess the clinic example of like, I saw like an XXL, which is like a mainstream down the middle like rap blog page, posted about Meg the Stallion opening up like a Popeyes franchise, which it's just a sentence. And just like all the comments on the post were like gifs of Tory Lanez and stuff like that. So that's what I'm talking about when like it's not it's not chill for women online trying to get justice for terrible things that have happened to them. And so I think for that reason, like, he doesn't feel he needs to address it. You know what I mean? Like, I think if this was like if this was 10 years ago, that would be what probably people were equally, if not more, mad about. But it's the moment we're in now, and that's just not something that moves the needle, which is weird. More than anything, is just like weird and gross, and if you're a woman, scary. So again, and this does not feel great to say after all of that. I wanted to be as someone who is still listening to Kanye's music from time to time. I did want to be like, all these takes weren't me trying to intentionally be critical. These are just like, given the history he has of sus behavior, of harmful rhetoric towards name the group you want to say. You can't just take this as, okay, you're sorry, we're good now. Like, I don't think for the public conscious, or like even me, someone who's a big fan of Kanye, it's like, we'll never just be good now, bro. Like, there's a lot of water under this bridge, and there's a part, as a Kanye fan, there's like, it's weird calling myself a Kanye fan, right? But as an enjoyer of his music still, there is a part of me, a very small, but I have to acknowledge, a live part of me that's like, this next album is going to be his dark fantasy part 2, and he's going to get everyone back on board again, and we're going to be up. And that's just the part of me that like yearns for the feeling I had when I listened to like a Yeezus or Pablo for the first time. And I have comfortably, like, I'm very comfortable with the fact that that's not going to happen again. But a small part of me wants it to be 10 again. Shit, you wish it was 2010 again too. So yeah, now we're gonna get to the non-cynical reasons to try and balance out. This is me trying to be empathetic, and not purely from a point of just I like his music, so let's give him some grace here. The first non-cynical, like, I wish I could find there's a word for non-cynical. Optimistic, I guess you could say. Hopeful, benefit of the doubt. This is the benefit of the doubt list. Damn, I'm not smooth with it right now. Number one reason I give him some benefit of the doubt is I believe that he didn't want to do that, right? Like, I don't suffer from any major mental health things. I've dealt with some anxiety, depression in my life, but never been diagnosed with anything. Generally have moved through life with my brain cooperating with me, period. But I do have friends and know people who are bipolar, have BPD, have depression, anxiety, have, been in and out of psychiatric facilities. I lived in Portland, half the people there. I'm sorry. It is what it is. So I do know a lot of people, and I've also dealt with, I've talked about before, addiction. I spent years being a pretty nasty alcoholic. And so, at the part where he talks about how he treated, some of the best people in his life the worst, and he destroyed his life. Like, I believe he feels that way. Like, I believe, like I said, and as an addict, like, I believe he feels that way and he didn't want to do those things, right? Like, we are social creatures. A big reason we have like a close, you have your friends and family who you like rock with the most is because more than anything, having that support system, those people keep you accountable for like being a person. You know what I mean? Like, it's a thing you have to learn in well, I learned in rehab is like the people you're around and that influence you, they hold you accountable, and like you don't, more than anything, you don't want to disappoint them, right? Like, you might have really outlandish beliefs. Like, I don't believe Kanye really, I don't know where he stands on anti-Semitism. I'm gonna keep it a buck, but I believe any person wouldn't want to embarrass their family and embarrass their friends and isolate themselves from their friends and family the way he did, right? Like, I've embarrassed my friends and family and isolated myself from my friends and family, and I did not want to be doing that. And also, I was in my body as I was doing that, right? And that's a scary place to be when you look back at it in retrospect, because, like I said, those are, I can only talk about my experience in this regard, but like, you don't want to see your mom cry. Like, that is not some shit that you want. Like, I'm not explaining it as best as I could be, but yeah, I think I believe him in terms of like all of that stuff, and also because I like have an understanding and a true respect for bipolar disorder and all different mental things. So like those are what he's talking about in terms of not being yourself and wanting to do whatever you can to like isolate yourself and be as like, once you've already been isolated and you feel like everyone is against you, the urge then to like be like, well then fuck everybody because nobody's here for me, nobody supports me, nobody gets me. That's a real way you can get, and it's scary. You can, you can become someone who you like you said feels disconnected from who you truly are. And so when he says all of those things, I believe him. It is like, it's hard. The next point is kind of, they're all going to blend together, but like, it's hard when, like I've said, it feels like a pattern of behavior. Like I said, I was just listening to The Life of Pablo, and there's a line where it's like, you ain't never seen nothing crazy as this nigga when he's off his Lexapro. That's essentially the bar. But he's talking about being off of his medication. So in the same way where you're like, man, you've been dealing with this stuff for so long. Like, why are you still dealing with it? It's because like you're still, you're still dealing with it. Like, you don't beat bipolar disorder. You know what I mean? You learn to live with it. And in a lot of ways, I think he's still learning to live with it. Most things in life that are wrong with your brain, you don't fix. You don't beat. Like, I'm not an alcoholic. I just don't drink anymore because I know it turns me into a monster. I didn't beat it. I just have learned to live with it. And that same way, Kanye, at any point where he's like, oh, he's back to who he, whatever, he's making good music again. It's Kids See Ghosts. It's Donda, whatever. It's not like at any point he was fixed or like, past his issues. And that's why it can seem like, he doesn't learn, or why it can seem frustrating. But that's the game. Forgiveness isn't a one-time thing when you're dealing with someone who is going through, mental affliction, addiction, whatever you want to call it. Like, it sucks, right? You wish, especially in Kanye's case, where each of the episodes is such like a big seismic shift in our, like, I won't say our culture, but like it gets to a lot. He has a huge platform. So if he's having an episode, it's different than your cousin having an episode, because while there certainly are a lot of people who can be affected by that, there's no way it's millions. You know what I mean? So it's that also is what makes it harder, right? Is balancing. And this is gonna get this dovetails nicely into the last point, because it's like what he's done with the swastika and the Nazi stuff. It is a perversion of what we love about Kanye, which sounds crazy, but I do think the slavery was a choice is a fucked up, like, mutation of George Bush doesn't care about black people. What it is he I'm not. He talks about not having autism. We're not here to have that conversation, but there clearly is a part of him that, like, just wants to say the thing, right? That whether the unspoken thing that people are thinking, excuse me, is true or not, or whether or not people are going to like it or not, there is a part of him that has to say whatever his brain is thinking. And when you are rewarded for that at one point in your life, of course, when you're in like a manic episode and you're at a point where you're like, nobody understands me, or just more simply, you're at like the I'm a genius. If you're in the I'm a genius portion of like a bipolar episode, and also you have thousands of people online saying you're a genius, and you have Time magazine calling you, the most influential artist of a generation, which is true, but it can be really easy for you to go like, yeah, anything I say is gossip, like people are going to eat it up as the truth. And also what I have to say and what people want me to say is the most, off the wall, right turn when everyone else is going left thing possible, which gets you to slavery was a choice, or whatever, DEFCON 3 on the Jews. That's not that DEFCON 3 on the Jews tweet was not funny. Yeah, so I think, yeah, celebrity culture is bad overall, but I can only imagine what it's like to be in a manic episode and have like Instagram. You know what I mean? Actually, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that. I totally can't imagine that. That was totally me for a while. And this will dovetail in the next point. So a lot of the platform I have now is due, and we're done with Kanye for now. Let's see. Final thoughts on Kanye discourse at all. I overall have a cynical view in terms of like the the structure and timing, and half of my brain is like, this is not Chat GPT, but this is the thinks he's like, let me get the apology I have to give to put music out. And half of me thinks, is that like, can you do that and still also give a genuine apology, right? I think both things can be true. I think it could have been more thorough, and I do think there are problems that he had that he didn't address. But I also think, when people talk about, like, I think mental health issues are serious, and I believe him that he has, all the mental health things he purports going on. I think it's very clear. I haven't. It's been a long time since I've been surprised by reading that Kanye said anything. As someone who's been tapped in for a long, like as long as I have, because I know that's a dude who has got some mental things, some screws loose, that sometimes can go into manic episodes that can be, who knows what they could be triggered by. But I think if you're someone who is prone to having manic episodes, the way our culture treats celebrities now, maybe always has, but especially in the social media age where everyone can read infinite good, bad, whatever about themselves, and people are taking photos of you constant. Like there's no privacy anymore, and just trying to live like a clean, medicated, mentally well life at that level of celebrity, I imagine is literally impossible. So I do have empathy for the situation, though, you know, I still want more from and for him, if that makes sense. Is that a bow on it? Yeah, so I have the platform I have. This is new topic. Timestamp this. Auto captions, motherfucking auto captions. Auto captions be hoeing me out, dog. I don't like them auto captions on Spotify. They be telling people, it's like the last one I say it was like MLK's dubious doctorate. That was like one of them, and I was like, that is what I'm talking about. But like, don't say I said that anyway. Long story short, a lot of the reason I have the platform I have now is because I used to be a very loud social media, social justice, wannabe activist, poster during 2020 in particular. I was online a lot, and I got a certain amount of clout in a specific niche in 1 to 2 cities. But having gone through the highs and lows of that and ultimately crashed out via social media many times, I have, man, is this just going to be a thing where I say the word? This podcast should just be called Creme Says Cynical or Nihilism. That's not a very good name or a good joke, but those are the things I do a lot. I be having been the most let's post to get through the, like, my Instagram post is going to start the revolution ass nigga to, I don't know, I guess you could say having done and seen a lot of that done that ultimately impacted nothing. I have now a very cynical view of just social media, particularly Instagram, advocacy, and general what is the word? What's the word? When you're what's the word where you're like activism? Damn, I couldn't think of activism. I think a lot of social media activism is incredibly corny. And I just wanted to, I don't want to call anyone out or call people out or be like, if you did this, you are corny and a fraud. I'm not saying that. You can't say I'm saying that. But I saw a lot of people doing doing like an Instagram, either a reel or like some kind of slideshow where the premise was, the hook is like, I just started an OnlyFans, slide to see instruction, or slide for the link. And then it was like, details on how you can report just stuff about ICE. It was information about how you can organize against ICE. At its heart, this is nice. I won't even say nice. At its heart, I see what people, I see what the first person to do this was trying to do, right? This is one of those things where the first person that did this cooked. The first person that was like, yo, I am like an actual, maybe I'm an actual sex worker, or maybe I'm an actual like female, name your profession here that people are thirsting after, and I'm gonna do the bait and switch and get people to look at this info about prevent stopping ICE, calling your local representative, mutual aid organizations, yada yada. First person to do that cooked. I'm not saying they didn't. Uh, it's a clever way to get people to engage with, or at least read information about how we as a citizenry can organize against the Gestapo. Right, first person they did it cooked. Everyone else who's done it after, you're not cooked. Like it's so like it's a trend. You want it. The people that did it after that, you wanted to do the I'm social justice and I'm funny post, right? Like whenever people do like I don't know, I see this by various, medium to low level artists and creators who are actually trying to like promote tour dates or something, where they'll be like, picture my butt for the algorithm, now here are some tour dates, right? I get that, but I do think those type of people have a misunderstanding of the algorithm, or at least like it's either not gonna, best case scenario, right? If you're doing that, best case scenario, you sell a bunch of tickets to just horny dudes who are gonna be weird to you. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario is it's just showing it to horny dudes who are like, I'm just gonna look at his ass and not engage with this post at all. Similarly with this thing, it's the biggest problem with like Instagram activism. I'll say it like specifically Instagram activism is the worst, because most people on Instagram who are leftists, you're just posting stuff for other leftists. Like on a platform like TikTok or Twitter, there actually is like the algorithm is set up in such a way that if your post does well, it's just going to be sent to a lot of strangers. And in theory, Instagram does this too, but your social justice posts aren't going to be the ones that perform crazy well and go off into the algorithm to be showered with likes and shares. Those posts are just going to other leftists, liberals, whatever, who are just like, yeah, we really do be posting. And I just also, I don't know, just some of the posts I saw about it too, where it was like, I get that people were trying to make like the most engaging first slide possible, or like hook of their video possible, but so much of it came across to me. I saw a lot of this. Maybe you people didn't see this. I live in Portland, and I live in Seattle, and I came from Portland. My timeline is a lot of the most annoying liberal people in the world, and so are my listeners, so I say that with love. But a lot of it was just like, I think you just wanted to earnestly get this thirst trap off, and you're like, I finally have an opportunity, or like, damn, to me, it just read like a lot of people who were just posting to post in a trend, rather than being like, how can I actually use my time and platform to advocate for and promote, things that are helpful. And not to say the third slide, everything wasn't helpful, but I think your energy was put more into the how can I be funny, hot, clever, whatever of it. And so, I mean, I'm not saying anyone I follow did that or that is listening did that. And I guess I would just say, in the black square of it all, right? If there's ever a trend within the social justice Instagram space, just be like, maybe just don't participate in it. Maybe don't. I was gonna be like, maybe be thoughtful about what's happening, but I can't think of like the ice bucket challenge. I think probably did a lot of good. So if there's another ice bucket challenge, tap into that. But if it's a thing where you're just posting and thinking your post is going to move the needle in any way, I promise it's not. Use your time. Your time would be better spent reading or actually calling your congressperson or actually writing a letter or actually finding out how you can get involved in local mutual aid networks or actually educating yourself about ICE and how to protect your community. Posting is almost never the best form of advocacy, activism, whatever you want to call it. And just kind of jumping off that, the little strike on Friday, I call it a little strike because once again, if you were not outside of, and I'm sure some people listen to this, living like, I have people on the East Coast that fuck with me because I lived on the East Coast. If you weren't in the hyper liberal Instagram space within the past week, I don't know if you knew people were planning a strike. I'm not going to get crazy into like my critiques of the quote unquote strike. I will just say for a general strike to be effective, it has to be extremely more organized than the one that I primarily saw via Instagram infographics or stories. Unions, more than anything. If the strike isn't like the unions aren't locked in, we ain't doing shit, bro. Like if like all the people in Portland and Seattle and San Francisco and whatever, name your liberal city, want to take off from their creative consultant job, I'm sorry, dog. Y'all ain't doing shit. Y'all just taking the day off. I just thought the funniest part was like in Portland and maybe in Seattle. I don't follow as many in Seattle, but all the small businesses who, because of the perceived pressure of a bunch of Instagram posts from about a strike, had to be like, hey, sorry, we're staying open, but we're doing this in solidarity. And for me, it was like, hey, bro, y'all just didn't have to post anything. I don't think it's a big Streisand effect thing. The Streisand effect, if you don't know, is one of those things where it's like, don't mention the thing you don't want people to talk about. if you're afraid you're gonna get caught doing something, don't just preemptively apologize for it. It's the idea that if you talk about something, it's gonna continue being talked about. That's not what's the proper definition of the Streisand effect? I'm at a loss for it right now. But basically, yeah, people, you just didn't need to post if you were just going to be open anyway. To me, it just looked very funny to see a bunch of coffee shops and small businesses being like, hey, we have to stay open. Like, because again, if it's just the liberal artisan class people boycotting their local small businesses and like co-ops that they shop at, again, that's not doing what you think it's going to be doing. Dog, if you should be, those are the places you should be shopping at more. If we're going to do any sort of strike, like the small businesses should be staying open. And then again, that's not in a perfect world, but just if a strike happens, people, in order to be able to take a day off work, mutual aid networks have to be set up so that people know they're going to be taken care of in terms of like food and resources they might need, for that full day of money they won't be making, which most people can't afford to just not work a day. That's why mutual aid networks have to be set up. That's why agreements with like across unions have to be set up, so that like we can't like people just don't get mass fired and shit. And that's just a little organizing 101 from Creme Brulee. I'm really miffed. I couldn't perfectly articulate what the Streisand effect was. I do think I captured the spirit of what it is correctly, but I did not capture the perfect essence. And so next week, that's how I'll be leading off the show. We did it. We did it. I still have to go wash the dishes and try to get a workout in tonight. But god damn it, we did a podcast, and you were here with me. Thank you for listening. My name is Creme Brulee. Like this, press the buttons, and try and do something good. Try and do something good for someone you don't talk to a lot. Does that make sense? Like, someone in your, if you live in an apartment complex, someone in your building, someone in your neighborhood, someone you just see but you don't really talk to, just try to, I don't know, don't give them like $1, but like, I don't know, ask them how they're doing, compliment. That's it. We're doing compliments this week. Give somebody a compliment. Just give somebody a compliment, and don't be weird. Like I said, someone someone you just see every day, you never say anything to, just be like, hey bro, I see you every day on this bus, and you've always got cool sneakers on, so keep wearing cool sneakers. That's how we're gonna get out of this. Your Instagram posts aren't gonna start the revolution. Kindness is. Let's get out of here, baby. Play the music, me.
It's so me. I don't know if that's cool. Yeah. Bitch. Yeah, it's Creme fucking Brulee. Yeah, you can like or you can hate.